Hey, here, Kathleen.
Hi.
Are you doing the honor to introduce us?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 p.m. Should we give the others a few more minutes to join us? I think we can give them a minute or two.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. For whatever reason, I can't start my video. I don't know what's going on here, but
Good morning,
good morning.
or afternoon, I guess it is already.
Yes.
Well, it depends on which side of the world you are, because in Europe, as soon as there's sun, they will still say good afternoon, good morning. Until 6 p.m., it will be good morning
Ah,
because it's shiny.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
If the sun is up, we do say good morning. Usually during, I think it's winter time. Yeah, it was around December a couple of years ago. It was almost 9:30 p.m. and it still, was shiny out there. And my daughter's like, it's still day. I'm like, no, it's 9 p.m. So.
All right, it's 1:02 p.m. I'm gonna get started. I think we have everyone here. So welcome and good afternoon to CSC's Fiscal Invoicing and Best Practices Training. My name is Kathleen Campbell. Some of you may already know me. I'm the Director of Finance here at the CSC. And with me today are your presenters for this training, Ms. Ileana Blanco, Senior Compliance Accounting Manager, Ms. Anne Alexandra Lemon, Senior Accounts Payable Specialist, and Ms. Clarice Horton, Accounts Payable Specialist. So we decided to bring this training at the start of our fiscal year to ensure that you're fully equipped for the year ahead. We'll be going over the supporting documentation required for your monthly invoice, and we'll provide you with some tips on how to successfully complete the reimbursement request in SAMIS, as well as some best practices when preparing your reimbursement request. So please stay alert, and thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend this afternoon's training. Feel free to ask questions during the presentation so that we can provide you with the clarification you need. I'll be monitoring the chat for any questions you may have. The session is being recorded and we will share the recording with you as well as the PowerPoint presentation. So you'll get that at the end of the session. I'm trying to see who's in the chat right now. Good afternoon, Miss Lorena. So now I'll turn it over to Alex.
Good afternoon to you all. Like Kathleen says, my name is Anne Alexandra Lemoine, but I go by Alex. Keep it short and simple. And that's what I'm going to do with the presentation today, so we can go through it. Any question that you might have, we will try to answer them with you. And we have Clarice and Ileana that will also be presenting this afternoon. So we're going to start by giving you best practices, and both of us, Clarice and I, were in the other side. We use submit invoices, so that's the reason that we kind of have an idea of what you are going through, and we will help you in the way that help us. So let me see, I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you. right there. Share screen. Here we go. So you all can see my screen. The overview that we're going to talk about today will be regarding your reimbursement requirements. Everything that you can find in the provider guidelines. We will talk about the detailed review payroll and your fringe support review, your detailed review about the expenses that you submit, how to calculate your administrative rate, because it's been a new subject for most of us this year, and any additional reports to include in your submission. So the first part that I'm going to cover will be the salary and the payroll and their benefits. Your payroll detail report, the pay stubs, or your check register, what you need to submit. Those are the first document that you will need to have to submit your salary request, because remember, we are in a cost reimbursement environment now for most of us. So a good practice when you're submitting and preparing your cost reimbursement salary request is to build up a spreadsheet with your payroll schedule that will be either by pay period or by pay date, depending on how your company payroll system works. This will help you to determine how many pay periods you will include in your payroll reimbursement. Some months you might have 3 pay periods. For example, December, July, or August, most of the time they have 5 weeks. If the days in the payroll period that you are considering as cutoff are less than 50% of the payroll, you may bill for it in the following month. You will need to have your payroll register or your summary detailed report to start building your request reimbursement. You're going to sort those reports in alphabetical order by employee's last name or by position title, based on the allocation for your specific grant. You will make sure that your support documents have all the necessary information for the employee that you are seeking reimbursement for, and the allocation based on your contract for each position. You will create a summary that will go with your reimbursement detail request. And that summary is an example that we have there on the screen that has the pay period, the work days. Remember that we do not go specifically by pay date, but mostly by worked days. So you will start building from there. You will also be attaching to your request all the benefits and fringes documentation, such as proof of payment, your health insurance backup documentation, with only the employee that you're billing for. You will have to redact any information for the other employees. We need to see the employer portion, which means what the company pays for each employee that are under that grant. You will also attach all documentation regarding your workers' compensation payment, when it was paid. It might be annually or monthly. You will also include the unemployment documentation that is needed related to your contract. You can find a template in the provider guidelines for the summary that we talked about that you need to submit with your reimbursement request. You can find it on our website. We encourage you to save a copy and refer to it whenever needed. That need to be submitted in PDF or in Excel. It helps us to follow along with you when we are reviewing the reimbursements. And to recap what you need when you are doing your reimbursement, it is a summary of your detailed payroll expenses billed for the month. You need the detail report, a pay stubs or the check register, your retirement contributions, your health backup, life, and other additional fringe that you will seek reimbursement for. So that's the portion that I share with you, and I will transfer over to Clarice.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Clarice Horton, your other accounts payable specialist. Just so you know, prior to coming to CSC, I was in your shoes for over 10 years, and I understand it could be frustrating or confusing at times, but I have some good news. We are here to help you. Before we begin the expenses review process, let me share some best practices. Always, I must stress, always keep your budget in front of you. Your approved budget is the first point of reference to eliminate some of the questions you may have of which account the expense belongs to. Number two, to ensure that all expenses are included in the reimbursement, gather all invoices and backup documentation that pertains to the current month's reimbursement. I recommend that you do this on a weekly basis because this is exactly how things are missed. And number three, classify all of your expenses by the respected CSC expense accounts in your budget. This is just my little bit of advice to you to help get you organized. If you can get this right, the rest will come easy. Let's go over expenses and what is required to ensure that the expenses are reviewed and approved in an efficient manner. When requesting reimbursement, a photocopy of the original receipt should be submitted to CSC. The following requirements must be met. All receipts should clearly indicate the vendor's name, the total amount, and the date of the purchase. The agency must attest in writing that the receipt copy is a certified copy of the original. This stamp must be on all supported documents, which includes receipts, invoices, checks, bank statements, and credit card statements. All cost reimbursement receipts, copies, and supported documentation must be presented to CSC for payment within 30 days of the transaction date. For cost reimbursement, the invoice is supported by proof of payment, which notes the amount, the check number, and date of payment. Let's go ahead and enter an expense in SAMIS. When entering the expense into SAMIS, please make sure that you record the check number or the last 4 digits of the credit card number, the date, the vendor name, the total check amount, and the amount that you are requesting from CSC. And in this case, you will see that the total check amount was $199.36, and we are only asking, this provider is only asking $99.36 to be reimbursed by CSC. Please ensure payments made by credit card are supported by the actual receipt of the transaction and the credit card statement or transaction report. When using the credit card statement for multiple expenses, you only need to upload the statement once per line item if necessary. Please, no ads, no small prints, no advertising, no annual rates, even though I love reading them, but you do not have to submit those additional documents with your statement. Also, expenses, including flex funds and value added, must be supported by proper backup and complete documentation in order for CSC to reimburse the expense. Organizing your receipts per expense will allow you to prep the support per bundle. It is easier to identify and name. Expenses are to be entered in CSC in the order listed and not scrambled. This creates efficiencies for your reviewers and CSC. Attach all supporting documents from the summary page, not at the individual expense line. Let's look at how to perform the upload in CSC. In our example, we will be attaching the reimbursement signature page. In order to do that, you must click on Add Document, record title of the you will record the title of your document, and then you will drag and drop the desired file, into the file field. Remember that you only need to upload the signature page of the reimbursement detail report. You do not need to upload the additional reports. Right now, we are going to transition into the admin calculation. For cost reimbursement contracts, admin costs will be reimbursed based on the admin rates and noted in your approved budget. So whatever your approved budget says, that is the admin rate you're going to use. Some providers have a tendency to just assume it's 12%, but always refer back to your budget. The admin rate is applied to the sum of all salary, fringe benefits, and programmatic expenses. In this example, the agency admin rate is at 6.92%. The rate is multiplied by the sum of the salaries and expenses to obtain the admin cost of $1,224. It is the total of all expenses plus the admin costs that make up your total reimbursement. When entering the check number in SAMIS for admin costs, please enter the last day of the reimbursement month. Remember, backup documentation is not needed for admin costs when submitting to CSC for reimbursement purposes, but you do need to keep the backup at your agency. But when you're submitting your invoice, you do not need to include any type of backup documentation for admin rates. Now I will be turning it over to Ileana to continue with the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's get started with some of the specific accounts that tend to give us issues from reimbursement to reimbursement. Flex funds. Flex funds are used to meet individual client needs with barriers to program participation. Remember, these are emergency financial assistance funds and must be accompanied by the right supporting documentation, meaning that if you cover a light bill, we must actually see an invoice or the light bill from FPL. If you cover a mortgage or a rental, a copy of the lease must be included. Now, we do not need 80 pages worth of a lease. Normally, the terms of the lease, the amount, and the lessor are listed in the first 2 pages. So please keep the documentation short, but just enough to meet the requirements. A program manager in Flex Funds may require you to send it into additionally the narrative or the request by the program participant and how the internal documentation approval of your agency was submitted. So please be prepared to supply that to your programs manager. Normally, you will not be needed to include this in your monthly reimbursement report unless your program manager requests it. But of course, you still must need all of the requirements to get reimbursed for the expense. For value added, these are funds that support our program's goals. The incentives or family participation rewards that you give to your participants. Remember to keep the incentives in less than $25 per gift cards, and a gift card log must also be accompanied with your value added. The gift card log does not need to be submitted to CSC unless you're making that one-time charge. If not, your compliance accounting manager will review your gift card logs and all supporting documentation when we visit you once a year. For space and utility, your program's compliance accounting manager should have already certified you on your monthly draw amount. You will not need to submit any backup documentation for space and utilities in your monthly reimbursement. Third-party fees. Third-party fees are those fees collected by program participants. Although most of the providers that we're seeing right now do not collect third-party fees, there are some that still do, or we may have other programs that joined us. All third-party fees are being asked to be reported under expense account 1600 unless specified by your program manager to report in a different account. A narrative of the third-party fees must be included at the summary level of the reimbursement. And then just looking ahead, SAMIS 3.0 will definitely help us alleviate third-party fees in a much more technical way, but that's to come in this following few months. So stay tuned, stay tuned. Reporting the match. Many of you ask usually, where do we report the match? Because there are two places being offered in SAMIS. There's the available funder blue hyperlink letters that you can click and it shows you match information. But we ask that you report the match at the summary page in this area right here. When you report it at this level, it is printed in your monthly reimbursement and we can go back and make a sum of the match reporting that you've done throughout the year. For all of us, we have different matching requirements and different matching items. So you may choose to report your match monthly, quarterly, and annually. I suggest that you match whatever it is that your matching component is. If you're matching with a salary from an employee or another staff member that works for the program, it should be reported monthly. But you certainly may choose to do so quarterly and annually. Any questions for our reimbursement? We wanted to leave some ambiguity here so that we can ask questions. This is where we will discover a lot of our findings together. So please, if it's a question in your mind right now, ask it. We are here to help. And we have some examples that we can help us discuss your questions. I'm going to stop sharing, but we can definitely show this again. Any questions?
I have a question.
We all have reimbursements, by the way, all of us.
I have a question.
Go for it.
The stamping certified, you want us to buy a rubber stamp and stamp it or write certified, or what do you mean by certify each invoice?
You know, that is totally up to you. PDF offers an auto stamp that you can use to stamp your certification. If you're still handling paperwork in hard copy format, there are many of us that already have a certified stamp used the actual rubber physical stamp. As you can see from our examples, and I'll share that again for you guys. These are actual examples from all the stamp styles that we get from different programs. So it is really up to you. Just remember that the date must be included in the stamp. Not a full signature, just your initials. But you can use whatever method you need to use in order to get this accomplished. Hispanic Unity down here, I believe, uses a sticker. So just different styles of stamping.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Or just certified won't meet the requirement.
Thank you kindly.
In that question.
Another question about that. Who needs to certify it? I'm the approver in SAMIS. Is it okay if I certify the copy? Or?
Absolutely. So you're the approver of the reimbursement?
Yeah.
So in reality, the creator of your reimbursement should already be uploading all of this stamp certified, because I think that you may have the opportunity to do it on your end when you are in the reviewing mode, but I would think that you would want to make sure that that is accomplished from
we do a two-step. I review it before it even gets it's a two-step review. So prepare, review it, make sure all the documents there before it gets submitted, and then do another review. Just make sure everything's right.
Perfect. So that sounds like a great checkpoint for you to ensure that you made a full review, because you can just keep stamping. And then if you have to stop, you know that wherever you don't have a stamp, that's where you stopped your review last time. You don't have to wait to do this till the end of the month, like Clarice says. And we don't suggest that you try to do a month worth of work on the 9th of the month. Weekly processes are recommended for this. Grant management is huge. I know you know this already. So you get to, have a rhythm when reviewing your expenses. But yes, the stamp sounds like it will definitely be a good signal to you where your review ended. I don't see questions or participants, so please speak up.
There's a question in the chat, Ileana. Will you be sending us a copy of this presentation?
Yes, absolutely. You will be receiving a copy of the full presentation.
Hi, Ileana. This is Tony from Kids in Distress and Family Central.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, ladies. I have a question. Could we go back to the support required for the payroll? Just want to make sure I got everything down that's needed. The
So let me
payroll
put it on
summary.
this. I'll put it on the summary slide, and then if you need specific examples, we'll go back to that.
Okay, so we'll need the backup support moving forward with all these items that are listed per pay period. Okay.
Yes, for are you talking about the health insurance and the other fringe benefits?
Right, the health, the fringe, and also the detailed payroll report.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. And then we'll, I guess, submit that along with the pay stubs as well, because that's what we've been doing, the pay stubs.
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
gotcha. All right, cool.
Ileana, a quick question about the certified stamp again. So since I submit and I do the approving and all that stuff, I generally what I've been doing is combining all the PDFs into one bundle PDF. Am I able to stamp that first page that all attached pages are certified, or do I have to go through each page?
No, every single copy of a receipt, an invoice, a check, or a bank statements. And I'm glad that you bring up the bundle PDF. Let me see if I kept this slide for us. Yeah, so I want to show you this slide. For those smaller programs, now we have all different kinds of programs. We have very large ones and there's smaller ones, or there's ones that don't have a lot of expenses to report month to month. For those programs, a simpler but effective approach is to insert an account title in between the pages of the supporting documentation. And the title page is followed by the respective expenses. Using this format will allow you to make a single bundle upload, but the account breaks must be identified for it to be effective. The title page shows your reviewer, when the accounts payable specialist and your reviewer, what account they're reviewing, and it provides much needed efficiency. So we do not suggest using this type of upload for larger programs. These are for smaller programs that have less expenses than normal to report. So yes, we will appreciate, and let me switch to SAMIS, that when you perform your bundle upload, you do it per expense account.
Yeah, for me, I'm a unit-based program, so I just bundle by client, but I see what you're saying by unit expense account. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So your unit based contracts are a little bit different because you need to skip a lot of this stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I see you once a year for all of this.
I have a question for, I guess, Alex, regarding the service dates for the reimbursement portion, reimbursements. What is the cutoff date? Because usually our electric bill goes from half of the month to the following half of the month. If we went from the 20th of June to the 20th of July, can we bill it in July as opposed to June? Or does it even matter? As long as we remain consistent.
Yes, the thing that, thank you for the question, Annie. We did mention it, and probably that will help other people. For example, you have your Comcast, your electric bill, your water bill, and most of those are half of this month and half of the other month. We do remain consistent throughout the year. Remember, the real strict date will be 9/30. When we get to the end of the fiscal year, we have to cut it up to that year because it's 2 different fiscal years. But if you are consistent in the way that you're billing for your expenses and your utilities, yes, we will accept that. But that's why we need you to have on your summary the explanation that goes with it.
Thank you very much.
Ileana,
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
a question. So I guess I have been doing it incorrectly because when I list an expense in the reimbursement, I attach the documentation on each line item, and I'm not supposed to do that. I'm only supposed to do it in the summary.
No, actually, Judy, you are doing just great. This is new that we're starting because We have providers that are sending in over 150 pages, 180, we have 200.
Wow.
Asking for this to just be, to just change our format of doing it. It will be a lot easier. But yes, Jeannie, and let me go back to that. What Jeannie is saying is that we are asking you to attach at the summary level, which means right here, using the documents button. And then you would bundle your expenses every time you upload. There is another way to upload, which is how Jeannie was using it, in that we go to the expense line item and we actually upload individually up here. But what happens, Jeannie, is when you upload individually, it literally creates a document collection of about 180 documents.
Wow.
And we have to click in and out of each one versus us receiving one single upload in which we can review all of the support that is in reference to that account.
Okay.
Yes, please change the methodology that you've been using, but you have not been doing it wrong.
Yeah, and I want to add something to that Ilyana just said, specifically for those listing all the expenses that they have. For example, that in 1600 in your supplies, you have but 10 different items on Amazon. So you have 10 different receipt for Amazon. If you list them all, no, Amazon, we don't know which one is which. Because on our end, when we are reviewing it, Clarice and I, we do have to go to an individual line to figure out what it is. So one way for you to help us to review it is you're going to tell us that was Amazon invoice number, what it is, and the amount. Just like she's showing you for the Home Depot, just give us directive. Like I want to say, usually I say that when we are talking to somebody, you might say 2 + 2 = 4. Somebody else will tell you 3 + 1 = 4. And the third one will tell you, but 5 - 1 = 4. We are all agreeing on that. It's just we have a different thought process. So if you have multiple invoices for the same vendor, just tell us with whatever differentiation, which one it is. The invoice number, you can put the date, the amount, that will help us to know exactly which one to look for.
Okay, so you do prefer that I group them?
When you
instead
are entering them in your different line items in your receipt, like you're doing your reimbursement request, this has to be itemized.
Right.
It's by attaching your documents support.
That has to be summarized.
Correct.
For cost reimbursement and unit-based programs.
It is better to have it like that because you're in your unit base, you probably have your value added that you are submitting. You probably have expenses in 1600 that you're submitting. It's the same.
Okay. So okay, because I think historically what I was doing was when I upload, I would name it by the client name and say Flex Funds form, client name, check receipt, client name, whatever. So what I should be doing is all those clients, sum them all up in one bundle PDF and upload it at a summary level, not on each client level.
Yes, you you enter your different clients in your reimbursement request, but
the attachments are all just one.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, good afternoon. I have a question, Alexandra. When I enter all the expenses line by line in SAMIS in chronological, preferably order the way they come in, and in the end, I upload as a bundle, PDF bundle combined for this particular expense, let's say 1600, then it will be one big file, combined PDF will, in the same order as I put them into SAMIS line by line, will be the pile of documents supporting. And through that pile, it could be, I can start with Amazon first day and 3 or 4 or 10 Amazon charges through that bundle later in the chronological order through the bundle. Do you want me to summarize and bundle separately Amazon by the vendor inside that bundle, or just keep on doing the way I submitted in chronological order?
When you are entering them into SAMIS, you will still put them in the order that you have them. But remember, SAMIS most of the time sort them its way. SAMIS sometimes have a mind of its own. So that's the reason that before you submit, you can double check that it was entered properly. And that also the thing that you have to keep in mind in SAMIS, usually the last one that you entered will probably go on the bottom. So it does change the order, but when you're entering your Amazon, you might have a bundle of Amazon invoices. You will enter them chronologically like you have them. You can bundle them, but that's why we want to know which one it is. Because if SAMIS decide to shift and shuffle everything, but at least we know that's the one that you were referring to.
So if, let's say, if I will in chronological order mark them Amazon 1 and Amazon 3, which is in 5 days or something, and when I upload in PDF file the whole bunch of the supporting documents for 1600, if I put in front of it a page, cover page, that this is for 1600, and the second cover page that there is Amazon out of 11 items within that bundle, that will help?
Instead of putting Amazon 1, 2, and 3, you're going to put Amazon and the number of that order that's on that Amazon. See, just like Ileana is showing you with the invoice, the Home Depot invoice number.
Right.
Because that's the way that we can identify which one of the Amazon that you're putting.
Okay.
You can put it in a chronological order. It is fine, but you just need to make sure that in the description next to the Amazon, you put which Amazon order or what's the amount of that order.
Whenever I put line by line expenses in the SAMIS, I also mentioning what invoice is on that line. That's what you're saying. And when I upload documents, I don't need to make a summary page of all Amazon charges, just the whole thing together.
Correct.
Now I got it. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
Can I have one more question? Are we allowed to, I think I heard this, allowed to work on the reimbursement throughout the month? I thought we had to wait until November the 1st to work on October.
Not at all. The only
Really?
thing that would ever stop us from working on a reimbursement normally is if we submit for an amendment. And then I'm going to have to call you and say, hey, Jeannie, please delete the amendment so I can perform the amendment, but delete your reimbursement so I can support the amendment. But if you know, and you know when the amendments are coming, and amendments are going to come, sometime later on in the year, just,
Sure.
the timing of it, just to get it right. But no, you can work on your reimbursement throughout the entire month.
Also, you have to also keep in mind that the previous reimbursement have to be approved first. Then you could, then you could work on the next invoice. So if it was approved October 19th, then you could start working on the next month's reimbursement.
Oh, that's very helpful. Thank you for bringing that out.
Questions?
Question regarding, regarding the budget modifications. Is there a limit per year that we can do?
Yeah, so we are under a contractual agreement, but we do have a window and it's 20% of the value of your contract. So if you contracted with CSC for $100,000, any movement less than 20%, which would be $20,000, we do not need a legal signature for. So your agency should assign some type of management position that manages the budget with someone in fiscal that's always ensuring that we're utilizing the funds. They can assign a designated position that may submit 20% amendments that do not require legal signatures from either CSC or your agency. Anything above 20% will require signatures by our attorneys, yours and ours.
Quick
That's
question.
That's why you hear the term 20% amendment. It's less than 20% amendment.
And just a follow up to that. So, and personnel would have to remain in personnel and non-personnel the same.
Pardon, I didn't hear that, Annie.
And personnel, we couldn't shift from, we'd have to be within personnel. We don't shift from personnel to non-personnel.
You mean same line? You see, you need to move from
In the
same line.
category, yes. Yeah, so if we wanted to do a 20% amendment from personnel to shift it to expenses, facility costs, we couldn't do that.
You absolutely can, but then you have, what happens to your program structure? You must talk about that with your programs manager, because then program structure is interrupted. They may have ratios that you may need to meet, et cetera, et cetera. So if it affects program structure, please address it with your program managers.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Annie. Nice to meet you.
A question.
Hello, I'm
regarding
sorry. I just want clarification. So we can take, as long as it's 20% personnel dollars and move them to operating without asking permission? Is that?
No.
All
No.
amendments should come to your programs manager for approval.
Okay, because I think, Annie, was that the question you were asking?
Yes, if we could shift personnel dollars to non-personnel.
operating.
If it within, yes, if it was within the 20% or less. If we had a vacancy, you know, and then we have some surplus in personnel, could we shift that if it's 20% or less into operating costs?
You would have to seek approval from your program manager.
Okay, yeah, I thought so.
Program, as Ileana was saying, and then we would make the call there. All right.
Thank you.
Ruth has a question. She's been holding on for a moment.
Oh, please go
Oh,
right
no,
ahead.
that's okay. Those were good questions too. I was just curious. I thought if it was a salary change, because for instance, we just recently went through pay increases, and some people's pay increases were just like 1% higher than what we budgeted. Does that require just talking to the program manager about and adjusting budgets to accommodate for that, or would that require full signatures to adjust the salaries?
You know, Ruth, I'm a fiscal person, so I would say, because it will impact your budget at one point or another, it is a good idea for you to have this discussion. It's an open discussion with your program manager saying, hey, just to let you know, we had raises happen, so that we can foreshadow or foresee that in the future, you may need to make small adjustments to salary because you're running out of money in the month of September or August towards that end of the year. Just like Annie was saying, if I had a vacancy, but let's say someone else earned a raise and we're short in that salary amount towards the end of the year, we will have the opportunity to perform amendments to supplement those accounts.
Okay. And then just a reimbursement question to follow up on that.
Sure.
So we have the person who received a little bit of, I mean, good for them because they deserved it. But do I take, they're at like 20% is what they're budgeted at. Do I do 20% of their actual pay? Or
That's correct, of your gross pay.
Okay, because I have other funders who are like, nope, the max pay is what you budgeted. You take the percent of that. And so, okay, so I can use their actual salaries.
Yeah. Every funder has different types of guidelines. Yeah. In fact, some of you may be dealing with federal funders, which, you know, their guidelines go a lot deeper than our reviews go. And so you might have different requirements. For those of you, and there's a handful of agencies that we do have federal funding pass-throughs instances that go through us, their requirements are a lot more stringent. And you know who you guys are, because you need to send in a whole lot more paperwork. You know, when they say CSC is gentler and kinder, we kind of are, even with our paperwork. We're not as detailed as the federal funding side is, but we still require some level of detail.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for asking that question, Ruthie. Did we have questions?
One last question, I promise.
Go for it.
In terms of when Clarice mentioned if we may have a pending what do you call it, modification or some adjustments, and we're not able to bill our invoice timely, do we have to ask for an extension for the monitoring, or is it just assumed if we can show that an amendment was pending, we don't necessarily have to ask for an extension?
It is, go ahead, Kathleen, because I know you deal with this approval all the time.
Yeah, so you don't have to ask for an extension. It's automatic that if there is an amendment in process, you will not be able to bill. So when they come out for monitoring, just let them know that, and you should be okay. All right.
Okay, and the true would be as long as it takes to catch up to a timely invoice, because sometimes when the adjustment takes, longer than usual, it's not the norm, but it has happened. And we have the invoicing keep going late. It's just natural assumption that we don't have to submit for the modification, because Mina does not joke.
Is Mina on this call? Did Mina hear that?
Mina?
No, but yeah, we're very flexible when it comes to that. And we do know that you wouldn't be able to submit the invoice anyway. So yes.
I have a question. I'm sorry, you probably just said it. That I just want to make sure that I got it right. So I had a situation when I finalized the month, let's say it was July expense, and we already submitted and everything has been done. And somewhere in August comes up a receipt that was not included in July expenses, but it comes from July. Would it be okay to submit it in August as an exception, or it's already done and gone?
So who wants to take that? You want me to take that?
You will still seek for approval. When that happens, once again, it's an exception. It is not something that happens all the time. So you will send an email to the Director of Finance, your program manager, and your CAM, including your AP. Fiscal has to be aware of it, that there was an exception. This happened for such reason. And Kathleen, in her kind of heart, will decide, is it something that she needs to approve? We like to tell her that. She's very kind. But yes, you do need to let us know, because we cannot, just let it go like that. If it happens, it's an exception. You just let the fiscal group and your program manager know, hey, it happens that I had this exception right there, and they will send you a request, an answer if it's approved or not before you submit.
Good to know that there is a possibility, because we had that once when we didn't submit it on time, and since the month was over, we didn't submit it. So, okay,
So-
now we will know that. And the last question from me, if you don't mind, I know you already mentioned, I just want to make sure again, that admin cost, last year it was 9.48 and this year is 692, right?
Actually,
That's what Clarice was saying. Go ahead.
Actually, Lala, that was just an example that we were using.
Okay.
So whatever your approved budget says, that's the admin cost that you're going to use.
I see. Okay, that confused me a little bit. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Lala,
This is
let me just
Daniela.
add, Lala, the maximum admin rate is 12%. So some providers do get their 12%, but others do not. Based on their budget, will have a lesser percentage. So this example is just showing you what an admin percent could
be counted. Yeah.
And just to back up on the 30-day requirement for your invoices to be submitted, like you mentioned with the July invoice, we want to make sure that you submit in time so that we don't have any doubt that you had submitted it before. You understand? So we give you that 30-day restriction to try and get the invoices in as quickly as they are paid. However, exceptions do occur, as Alex said, and we are very flexible. We consider ourselves to be the kinder, gentler funder. So we will take a look at your situation, and usually we approve it if we can prove that it was not paid before. And I'll tell you, I've had invoices come in, late invoices, they've asked us to pay it, and when we go back and check, we already paid it. We already reimbursed them for that. So, we really don't want to have to go through the trouble to do that for everybody, but we do make exceptions.
No, it should be an exception, of course. And I was wondering about an exception just once in a blue moon, if it did happen.
Yeah.
But this year it didn't happen.
Right.
Good.
Thank you.
Daniela, I saw your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I just want to clarify. We use flex funds for FP&L often. And I just want to make sure it is the final bill that we have to have right before power turns off, or is it a rollover bill?
So I know Michelle Hayes is in here and she can, please, Michelle, chime in. Remember, we are trying to prevent one of our families from going into emergency mode. So it might just be that that bill, that one bill has not been paid, and it's the one bill that's just about to throw them over the brink of emergency mode. So no, there are times that we do see that it comes with all kinds of red tape and writing, and we're going to turn off the warning that they're coming out to turn off your electric, etc. But I don't think that always has to be the support. Doesn't always include that. Michelle Higgs, I know that you're on the call, so if you'd like to speak a little bit more to that, please.
That's correct. It doesn't have to be a final for that type of bill, or even if it's like a phone bill or a water bill, it doesn't necessarily have to be a final. The only bill that will be something that we will really question if it is to support a family in regards to paying for move-in rent. We don't do security. That's the only thing that we are not going to reimburse for. Or rather, yeah, the down payment is like first, last, and security that most places will ask for when it comes to assistance. But because security is something that a person could potentially get back, we will not cover that cost. So, you know, we've been asked a lot, like, well, if a family needs to move and they need first, last, and security, you know, are we not able to help them to move? You can help them to move, but you just cannot cover whatever the security cost is.
Okay, thank you. That's great news, because we were requiring the last final bill from FPL, and it was like a little uncomfortable, because usually it takes about 2 bill cycles for that final bill to be issued. So, but that's great news. So thank you.
Thank you, Daniela.
Hi, if I can just add, the point of flex funds is not to put someone into a situation where they can't get out of just so that we can pay for it. The point of flex funds is if they are at the verge of having some kind of difficulty, that we support them in some way to keep the family together and keep them home. So please don't ever feel as if people need to be in a final bill that they're going to be thrown out if it's not paid, in order for us to assist them. The point of this is to really support that family so that they don't get to that point.
Thank you. Cynthia, just to be clear, flex funds, however, it's not a matter of paying a bit, it's a question, sorry. So we're not supposed to be paying flex funds for a family that will not be able to pay the following months, or demonstrate to us that they are getting their stuff together to become stable in a month or two. So we're not just putting a Band-Aid on the situation, correct?
So repeat your question again, Annie.
So for flex funds, if we had a family who everybody's out of work, they have a final bill pending, when we're talking with them, they can't demonstrate how they're going to pay the following months, or even 2 months or 3 months down the line. Can we still assist them? Because in the past, they had to show how they become stable in a relatively short time.
Well, the opportunity for this point right now is to be able to assist them. So to connect them with those other resources that are out in the community that can support that. You know, we do have other services, and CSC is the payer of last resort. You know, so try to connect them with all those other services while we kind of put the Band-Aid on and keep them together until we get them more stable. So, you know, it's not a long term, and we don't want to see every month that we are using this money to pay to support the family, but we want to be able to keep them safe and have electricity and have a place to stay, but still be able to connect them with those other resources in the meantime.
Oh. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Annie.
Likewise.
Ask questions, you guys. We all have reimbursements.
So Ileana, I'm sorry, I apologize. I said we don't cover the cost of the security, but it's also we don't cover the cost of deposits either.
Yes. Just one last thing to go over with reimbursements. Most of the details that you're asking of us right now, your case manager, your job coach, your whatever position is requesting that reimbursement, that help, you should be able to follow the story in their notes as well, right? Because when I come out, that's exactly what I am auditing for, reviewing for, is that you do have the complete story of why this was issued. I do share with you best practices. Most agencies for flex funds specifically, they have an internal request form in which you have the client's name. You might have a letter of hardship attached to that request form from the client itself, because some programs do request that, and it's best practices to do so. You also have the invoice, which could be an FPL bill, and then the support for the payment that you made. But in that internal request form that you build for your agency, you may need to request a narrative in order for you in fiscal to feel comfort in what they are expending that money in. So please, if you don't have that in place and you need some help putting it in place, we have some forms that we can share with you. I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see some faces around here. Hi, Liz Mayers. Questions? Something at the top of your mind, because if it's on your mind, it's in somebody else's mind.
While we're waiting, I just wanted to ask, over the last couple of years, we have moved more into cost reimbursement. Units of service was very easy to bill for, but cost reimbursement has proven to be a little bit more difficult. Can you tell us of any challenges you've been having with this, or just provide us with some feedback as to how we can?
I can tell you. Hi, Kathleen.
Hello, Miss.
It's Cherie. I can tell you, time consuming. I have several contracts with you that are due at the same date, and I know we can always reach out and ask for extension, but time consuming is the issue that we have.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, grant management is huge, you guys. It's not an easy task.
Yeah.
Larger agencies have a specific person that is in charge of grant management. Usually the quality assurance position, which I know exists in many of your contracts, that position also helps. It's a tight relationship between the program side and the fiscal side.
Right.
It's a very tight relationship. And yes, this is exactly why we wanted to have this meeting, to bring this, to evoke some thought, because we know you're struggling out there. We see it on your monthly reimbursements, right? So please start talking with that fiscal person, your fiscal ally. You know, there's someone always in fiscal that wants to help you get through this. You know, declining budgets, you know, how much money do I have this quarter? This is the time to talk about that with your fiscal folks. How are we going to do this dance so that we don't miss anything on the reimbursement? Because a lot of the times what I find is that the program manager is functioning somewhere out there in programmatic land. And you know, us fiscal folks, we're about dates, amounts, timing, support right now, today, not tomorrow. And you know, you're out there still thinking, oh, what I got time. No, if you are not aware that you only have 30 days to submit a reimbursement and it's towards the end of the month and you're charging up all left and right, you know, this may cause issues. So please ensure that you and your fiscal representative have an in-depth conversation. What is it that we need to put in place in order for this to go smoothly for us?
Yeah. And at the start,
Sherry, I would want to give an advice on one thing, Kathleen, before you go. Before I come to CSE, I used to have that because I was in charge of 11 contracts and they were federal and they were time consuming, like you were saying. The way that it helped me, I start building my reimbursement per pay period. I don't wait until the end of the month. So every pay period, I start billing. So that gives me like a quarter, half of the bill already done. So at the end of the month, I only have to do what's remaining. So probably if you can try to do that, it might help you in a certain way to go faster with your different contracts.
Okay, great answer. But most of the times they're not approvers yet until it's time for me to bill again.
Yeah.
No, when I mean that it's not entering them into SAMIS, I'm talking about internal. So as soon as the pay payroll is ended at your company and you have the pay stubs, you have the payroll register, it's already processed. So you start building them on the spreadsheet. I love doing my spreadsheet because I'm still dreaming that one day we can upload those spreadsheets directly into SAMIS. So you don't have to manually enter it. So let's do it together. One day they will probably do it. Since we're going to SAMIS 3.0, that probably is going to be a good thing. Like we didn't know that we could upload in SAMIS and submit electronically. We had to do it. So that's one thing. Start building your invoice from a draft, and then you will just have to input into SAMIS.
Thank you, Elia. Alex. Kathy, I'm going to be coming to your question soon, but I just wanted to add a couple of things that we did late last year. What was with the space and utilities. Instead of asking you to submit that supporting documentation each month for your rent and your utilities, we verified that at the start, and we did it this year as well. We verified it in your budget at the start. So going forward, you don't have to submit that backup documentation. You just submit for the 1/12 of it. And that was the similar thing we did with administrative costs too. We said we wouldn't ask for any supporting documentation. So those are two areas that we did try to make it easier for you. We're still looking at other areas in which we can make this cost reimbursement billing a little bit easier, but I think we're getting there. Okay. Yes, Kathy, can you unmute and ask your question? Kathy, we're not hearing you. Kathy, none in Maka.
Kathy Nonima? No.
There's also a question from BS 18621.
Hello, hi, this is Linda from BS. So I have a question in regards to the contract. I'm looking over it and I don't see where the due date for my invoice is. And I'm under the impression that it's due on the 10th, but I don't really know.
It is in your contract. I think the compliance accounting manager should be able to tell you the page and the section where it is.
Yeah, that'll be great.
We will send that to you.
The provider guidelines also, your reimbursement provider guidelines that is on the website has all those details also. Remember that you need to keep that as your reference guide. The provider guidelines is on our website. You can go ahead and get into it.
Okay, because the reason is because we have the payroll accruals, and sometimes when the payroll hits, it's just like right on the cusp, right at the due date, and that's was my concern. So I wanted to be sure, you know, like especially for the month of November, I'm looking at when the payroll is going to actually post and versus when the invoice is due. So that's going to be really tight.
Yeah,
So
so that's one of the things we spoke about earlier last year. And Alex spoke about it in her presentation too, is for you to look at your payroll cycle for the entire contract year and determine how you're going to bill your payroll. If you do that, then you have your dates when your invoices are due. It will make it a little easier for you going through the year in billing your payrolls.
okay.
I also have to add that we are aware of the long internal process that BSO has. We are government also, so we feel you, but just stay open communication with us always. But yes, we are aware of your particular agency.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I hope that brings you comfort.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I'm going to show you one scenario because I was talking to one of the providers on how we've been able to come up with one way to show. Let me share that with you. Here. So we were able to figure out the different
We're not seeing
different,
the overages
yeah,
submit
yeah,
now.
yeah. So we came up with a way that we can show the different pay cuts, how we can build for it. So those are the different way that that specific agency could bill for. So if you can work on your payroll schedule that same way, and you know that those are the dates that you can include in your reimbursement. So in ahead of time, you do know when you will need to have everything ready.
Or you may also know that you need to make the cut a little earlier that month in order for you to stay sane and not have to stress yourself out like a crazy maniac, knowing that we are not requiring for you to submit that for, you know,
exactly, yeah.
Immediately. No, within September 30th is the one hard date we have. But in between the dates, we can definitely flex payroll periods here and there. As long as you use the same methodology, you're staying in touch with
exactly
your billing, your schedule shows it. This is why we're definitely suggesting prepare your schedule. Don't drive yourself crazy. If you know you're up against the clock, just, you know, say to yourself, that will be included in the next payroll, in the next reimbursement.
Okay. Okay, that was very helpful. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much.
I'm not sure that I understood clearly what Patty was asking. She has issue with her mic, but I believe, Kathleen, that she wanted us to talk about deposits. So probably if you are making a reservation for field trips and you have deposits, on how to reimburse that. Am I correct on what you're asking, Kathy? Yes, field trips. Okay. So she wanted to ask a question about when they are making the deposits, how to report that.
The field trips are covered in our reimbursement guidelines. Ileana, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so with deposits, again, very, very delicate, just like prepaid. We really do not like to cover those until you submit for a full reimbursement of the expense. Deposits are an exception to the rule of that you must submit it the same day. We would rather you hold the deposit until all of it's paid and you include it all in one summary reimbursement, so that, again, we don't have to go back and research a whole year worth of invoices to see if you've already paid that deposit or not.
There's one thing that we always repeat here at the fiscal department. We cannot reimburse you what you have not paid.
Yes. So I'm actually getting a message that they would like for us to go back and speak about flex funds a little bit in regards to gift cards used for flex funds. With that being said, listen up. There are two instances in which we will have gift cards, value added and flex funds. Value-added gift cards are gift cards which you issue to your program participants to incentivize attendance, participation, congratulations, graduations, milestones, goals, etc. With the issues that you do with value-added, you have a gift card log that logs the last 4 digits of the gift card you issued, the participant's name in which you issued it to. Depending on how you're set up in your agency, you may require the name of the case manager, program manager, job coach, mentor who has the desire to issue this gift card. So you have somebody who's asking for it, and then the date that it was issued. For value-added expenses, normally you would buy a gift card and you would provide the receipt for that gift card. If you bought many gift cards, you provide the receipt for multiple gift cards, but you always have a gift card log and who it was issued to. These are incentives. For flex funds, and the highest value for incentives it can be is $25 per participant. For flex funds is a little bit different. Flex funds are emergency funds. When we issue someone a gift card in using flex funds, we must, no exceptions, no negotiations on this. We must receive the itemized receipt. And I think that puts you at the agency in a pickle because you're giving the family this gift card and you may be giving them $100 worth of a gift card, but you have to request the receipts back. And most likely, we know the reality of things. We won't get the receipts back. And now you're not in compliance. So please plan ahead. If you're going to use gift cards for flexibility funds, you must include the itemized receipt. Any questions regard to that?
I have a question, Eliana. We had an instance where we had a parent that did not have any gas. So we physically went to put gas on his car. The case manager went to put gas on his car and we wanted to give him a gas card. If the gift card specifically for gas, do we have to have the receipt of when he put gas in his car? Okay.
Yes, the idea is yes.
Okay,
That's correct.
thank you.
And in that case, we would prefer if you could use a gas card, an actual card to a gas station. But if you don't have that, then we will need to see the receipt. Because as you know, a regular gift card could be used to purchase anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and that's why we actually went to put gas ourselves, but we wanted to purchase a gas card, restricted only to gas. We haven't done that yet, but because that way we know he's only going to use it for gas.
Right.
He or she. But we will have to get that receipt back from the parent to do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. That's really important to realize. There are restrictions that you can place on gift cards. No alcohol or tobacco restrictions. Because if you give me a gift card, I know exactly what I'm going to spend it for.
One more question, I apologize. And the gift cards is still through August that we could purchase, not after August, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
And we still had agencies that missed that. You're not going to get reimbursed for gift cards purchased in the months of September. You know, the idea is, and this is the idea why, the idea is that you're not storing gift cards. We're not in the business of storing gift cards. You must issue all of the gift cards that you bought with the funds during this fiscal year, If not, we are creating a kind of a bit of a risky area, a loophole where we could just be storing gift cards all over the place. Not a good idea, you guys, not a good idea.
Yes, two ends up, Eliana.
I have a question about the gift cards. So if you do buy something in September, if you buy one in September and you have the receipt, it's still not reimbursed.
You know, Nikki, is it one gift card for a flex fund and you have the receipt for it? And we know
So
you have a narrative and you have all of this. Kyler and Jetler will work with you. We can flex. We would probably not decline it. It was a flex funds. How do we know when the emergency is going to come, right?
Right.
But definitely not buying 80 gift cards in the month of September, anything like that.
No gift cards in the month of September is the same as buying pencils in the month of September for a program that's ending September 30th. So, you know, the whole point is we're using taxpayer dollars during that fiscal year. And if we don't use it, then we're not going to just try to spend it down. And we have to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So for September, if you're gifting someone something, then you're not going to buy 80 gift cards to give out the last week of September. To who? There's no one in your program left. You know, the whole point is to connect it to some type of activity. It's connected to some type of assistance that you're some place that you're supporting this family. So it's not necessarily just to give blank money away, but it's more of how can I support you and what you're doing and what we're working on through value added, through flex funds.
There were 3 hands up, but I'm not sure who had their hands up first. Ruthie, I see your hand up. Would you like to ask your question?
If there's someone who has questions related to the flex fund, first. Mine was going back to like payment confirmation for
okay, Ms. Hodgson. or Michelle?
I can go ahead. Mine's related to the flex. It was kind of a similar question. If, you know, if we have an individual family with an individual need in September, can we still do a gift card? Because I thought we could for
Absolutely.
emergency, but not for a group of incentives. And then now just curious, let's say we're going to have, we're doing some special group in September. We want to give the kids an incentive to participate. We should purchase those a month earlier.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. And then what if we get the gift, we give a family the gift card, but we don't get the receipt back in time for the invoice? Do we put the whole
So-
thing on the following invoice?
So for value-added gift cards, you do not need a receipt because it's an incentive that you provide
Right.
family less than $25. It's for flex funds gift cards that you would need to provide a receipt. So if you know this is the guideline and this is the requirement that you're being held against, then I would send either a case manager or a coach or to make the purchase with the gift cards and bring back that receipt. Because you won't be reimbursed if you don't have a receipt for the value-added gift card.
For the value added or the flex?
No, just value-added. I'm sorry, excuse me, flex funds, not value.
Okay.
Added is incentives. You just need
Okay.
the card log and the list.
Right. I thought so. Okay. Thank you.
Was that, did I answer
Yeah.
your question, Ms.
Yes.
Hodgson? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Michelle, I see you.
No, I don't think you answered back to Iris yet. Go ahead. But we can't hear you. If you can type it, because we cannot hear you. And Ruth, you had a question, and I see that Annie and Monica. So we'll go in that order.
Mine should hopefully be pretty quick.
You were muted.
Sorry, I misclicked. So sometimes we run into a situation with health, it's usually with our health insurance invoice where it'll get paid on, let's say it's September's invoice, but it'll get paid October 1st. I mean, September is probably a bad example. Let's say October's invoice gets paid November 1st. Can I still include it on October's invoice if it gets paid in November, as long as it's paid before I request the reimbursement?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I've been holding off and including it in the next month, but then that makes my paperwork more complicated and I've got to track it, and so, okay.
You want your paperwork to be easy, Ruth. So submit it as soon as it's paid.
Okay, that's great. I wasn't certain because I try to keep that clear line of, okay, was it paid in that correct month? Because every funder does things a little differently. So
yeah, as long as we don't pay more than 12 within the contract year or whatever contract period you have.
yeah, and it's usually it's paid like a day or two into the next month, just because we're working on a billing issue or something.
Yeah,
so
we're okay with that.
Thank you.
The question that Iris had for Flex Fund, Ileana, it was for gas card. If you buy the gift card for fuel only, do you need the receipt from the client?
Yes, that question was previously asked, and we would like the receipt. We would like the receipt. Kathleen did add that if it's specifically a gas card with all kinds of restrictions, that that would be okay.
The next question was from Annie.
Thank you. For providers who were cost reimbursement for the entire year, do we still have to do that budget modification? That budget to actual coming up? Yay!
No,
thank you.
Don't.
Your actual is your reimbursement, Annie. So no budget to actual exercise. You can ignore the messages when they come through for budget to actual. If you ran cost reimbursement the entire year, there will be no budget to actual due for you because your reimbursed is the actual.
So Sherry, did you hear that? That's 1+.
Yes, sure. Miss Monica Peña?
Sorry, I had to mute. Hello, everyone. I just had a question. I know that we talked, and I know you guys mentioned it a couple of times, and I just want to be clear when it comes to the gift card log. what exactly is the information you need on that gift card log, her date, and either the coach's maybe initials or a family, what exactly is needed on that log, just to make sure we're covering
It
all.
really depends on how your agency is set up. Different agencies do it a little bit different, but what we truly need is the date that the gift cards were purchased, the last 4 digits of the gift card, the participant who is receiving the incentive. And this is where we differ, Monica. Some agencies have the participant sign the gift card log that acknowledges the receipt of the incentive. Some agencies require the case manager, job coach, counselor, mentor that is requesting the incentive. They have their name, and some of them, they have the reason why the incentive is being issued as well. So it just depends on the internal controls in your agency. But those are the very important, who is it issued to, what date, and why were we issuing, and then if somebody requested it. So that way you have internal controls over who's requesting for your program.
I'm sorry. And so basically, if let's say I have a log, what you need is actually like somebody signing off on it at some point. You need that back with that. Okay. All right. I need to know that. All right. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure. And then Lala, I see your hand up again.
Yes, thank you. I want to go back to the salary reimbursement part. So before, I would submit as a cover letter the summary table for all the staff for this pay period. Then it will go one by one. Pay stubs, timesheet, pay stubs, timesheet, or the other way around, timesheet and pay stubs. My question is, I never, within your explanation, I didn't hear anything about timesheet. Does it mean that I don't need to submit them, only cover table and the pay stubs as a proof of the payment?
Alex, I'm gonna let you take your payroll question.
Yes, you can include your timesheet because the timesheet someday help us to determine, specifically for those who cut only from the first and the last of the month. So the timesheet is important to tell us what you have in there. You have it included, it is okay. What we are asking you to do is you need to have your pay stubs, timesheet, or all information regarding the employees in alphabetical order by their last name. And your summary sheet also needs to have your position title. The shortcut about that, SAMIS already has it in the order that you need to really submit it. So if you follow what you enter into SAMIS, you can even download that into Excel. So you need to have the employees by last name, their position title. So whatever that you're requesting will be their pay stubs if you have the pay stub, the timesheet if you have the timesheet, the payroll register so we can know exactly how much you paid. And the other part is you need to give us a summary so I can know, even though that you're requesting a portion of that person's salary, not everybody's at 100%. So I need to know, just like if I go to a store, if it's 70% off from what? So I do need the initial amount and why you came up to that number. Yes, you do need to include those, and you will see it's listed in the reimbursement.
And I assume that we also have to include timesheets for the match, if we have volunteers as a match.
The match has a different way to report it. That's Ileana.
No support is needed for the match on your monthly reimbursement, Lala. Your compliance accounting manager will review the entire match support when we visit you once a year.
So pretty much the more the merrier.
No, we don't want you sending in all kinds of paperwork. That's what we're trying to avoid. Some of you love sending us all your junk stuff in there. Please avoid it.
Yes, ma'am. No,
Yes,
just timesheets, pay stubs, and the cover letter with the summary.
That's correct.
Got it. Thank you.
And Ms. Yonela.
Hello, everybody. I just want to ask you again, Ileana, because we are using the gas cars, right? And when the client is using the gas card, you were mentioned that we need to also provide the receipt that they really expend the gas card, correct?
Yes, that's correct. We
Okay.
would like to see the receipt.
Right.
We
So
would like to see-
got it. No, I get it. So when they, because it happened, and I just want to kind of clarify in reference to the timing. So let's say that we purchased the gas card because they are in kind of emergency and it's ending almost the month. And their gas card, it can be probably in two parts. Is that okay? The purchase is being, let's say, now in October, let's say, well, in November, and then, you know, they didn't spend the other piece of the gas card. Let's say that it was 20, but it was for a 30. The other 10, it can be, no, it has to be the whole 30.
See,
For
Yanela, that's the issue we have, right? To a gas card, maybe they might be just pumping $10 at a time. So are you gonna go after them after every $10? When do you know? When do they stop? Do they keep the receipt? Do they not keep the receipt? So gas cards are probably an exception to the rule. When you issue a gas card, we assume that they're buying gas with it. It could be a gas restricted card too, so you.
It is. Actually, ours is restricted. We actually purchase it that say only for gas. Doesn't say
So
anything.
if it's restricted, you don't, the person receiving the card doesn't need to produce a receipt.
Thank you.
Just
That's
the
what I wanna know.
provider to show us that you actually pay for those gas cards, you know,
Perfect.
you distribute them. But specific or restricted cards, you don't need to have the receipts for when the persons use those cards. You know?
Thank you. You answered my
if
question
it's-
then.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't mean go out and hoard gas cards. Don't do.
No. It's
Not like to
similar to
find-
like bus passes, because in the past, some providers would purchase bus passes for their clients who had to take the bus. It's similar to that. Okay.
Yes, we do also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So we're ready, right?
Yeah, I think we're ready for the year ahead. Thank you again for
Catherine,
joining
may I say
us.
just one more thing with regards to the reimbursement?
Monica, do you have a question? I just saw your hands up. Do you have another question?
I'm sorry, I do. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Real quick. I just thought about it over and it's just processing. I'm trying to process it in my head on my question back to the whole gift card log. And to be clear, do we have to submit the signed version of that log every month? Because we have it signed, but we keep it in a binder. Does that have to be sent every month, or is that just to have our backup there? We have our backup, but we don't.
No. Gift card expenditures, whether value added and or flex funds, are reviewed by the compliance accounting manager in detail when we visit you once a year, when we do our review for you.
Okay, great. So that log is not required every month when we submit with.
No.
Okay.
Now, there may be an exception that your programs manager may request details for specifically on the flex fund side. Sometimes the program managers, I've seen that they do ask you to send in the narrative, et cetera, et cetera. So it depends. Please speak to your respective programs manager in regards to the details.
No, yeah, absolutely. With the flex one, I'm definitely clear on with providing, backup information with that. Or just regarding the value add. I was just confused as to with the log, if we had to submit that every month signed already, because we have it obviously when we distribute it and we give it out to the coaches, they do sign off on it, but we're not submitting the signed version every month. So that's why I was wondering. Okay, so that's okay. We have it on file, but it's only when the audit happens and that's when you will need that information. Okay, great.
Thank you. One of the last things I want.
I'm
Go right
sorry,
ahead.
just one thing, when you said that when you come out, you'll look at our match. What happens if we opt to do it on an annual basis and you're coming out prior to that? Do we just provide a sample?
No, it depends on what your match is, right? If it's payroll stuff, then I just ask for payroll details of the person of the position that's being in the match. But there are agencies that match us with a once a year fundraising event. in which they raise a lot of the funds and we get matched with that. And I come out and visit you in March, but the fundraiser is not until August. So no, we definitely work with you we would look and review at the supporting documentation for the match last year. We work with you, or you'd simply say, we do not have the match yet, but we will submit the support when we actually accomplish our event. So you can definitely do that.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So one of the last things I wanted to mention, this is really big, you guys, huge. Are you ready? For those of you who are running in units and those who are not running in units, the report to be submitted with your reimbursement is the Program Unit of Service Activity Report. Programs Unit of Service Activity Report. Many of us have been sending in the Programs Unit of Service Activity Detail Report. That is not the same report. It comes from a different side of SAMHSA. The required report is the activity report. It is listed and named in our reimbursement guidelines. So I will ensure that we share with all of you not only a copy of this presentation, but also the reimbursement guidelines so that you have them right next to you. Keep them right next to you. Please ensure that you're submitting the correct report. With the reimbursement report, they are asking that you only submit the last page, which is the signature page. You do not have to submit the entire report, just the last page with the signature, dated, etc. Okay, mileage. I just wanted to touch really quickly on mileage because we've had this question come up. At your agency level, you should be requiring a mileage log. This is normally reviewed by your financial statement auditors, and I know that we all get audited for our financial statements. It is a control in place to what you're being reimbursed or what you're reimbursing for in mileage. And the mileage log needs to have the place, the distance, the address. It just can't be a mileage log for $200 and here, let me cut you a check. You gotta have some control over that. Okay, just a quick reminder on that. So Programs Unit of Service Activity Report, and just the last page was the signature page. Alex and Clarice, anything else?
Want to remind you for your payroll summary, you need to have the employee's last name, alphabetized by employee's last name. You have a summary with the position title that is based on your contract, and that's what it is in SAMHSA. So that will help us to figure out who you are billing for, because for agencies that have a lot of employees or they have turnaround, if you do not have the name listed into SAMHSA, we don't know who you are billing us for. So we have to go on a scavenger hunt. So help us to help you. If you have a summary that has the name of the person in alphabetical order and alphabetical by last name and a position title, we will know exactly who you are billing for. And you need to submit your reimbursement with your benefits. You don't need to put everybody in the agency in the benefits. We need to know only who you are reimbursing for. We need to know what's the percentage allocation. You just write it on it. It can be manual. You have fancy stuff, it is fine, but we need to have that. And you're submitting your payroll summary in PDF and in Excel to help us know exactly your train of thought.
And I just wanted to remind everyone to make sure that you upload all of your documents on the summary page and not on the line item page. And when you do that, you're gonna upload it by expense account. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, ladies. And thanks everyone for coming out to this training. We hope you're fully equipped and prepared for the year ahead. We'll be sending out the PowerPoint presentation to you by email. And this session has also been recorded. We'll be posting it, I think, in SAMHSA on the wiki page, but we'll provide more details this week. Thank you. Thanks again, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.